The air grew thick with smoke, and the scent of burning wood as the siege tightened its relentless grip on the orchard. Under a sky heavy with dark, roiling clouds, the once serene grove was transformed into a battlefield scarred by flame and shadow. The outer trees, many ancient and gnarled, bore wounds both physical and spiritual. Branches snapped and fell, their cursed fruits bruised and blackened by the onslaught. Flickering lanterns cast trembling shadows across shattered leaves, painting a grim mosaic of devastation. Eamon stood atop a low embankment, cloaked in earth-toned garb streaked with ash and sweat. His silver-streaked dark hair clung damply to his forehead as he surveyed the scene with solemn eyes. Beside him, Scylla moved with practiced grace, her fiery red hair a stark banner against the muted hues of the battlefield. She handed him a small vial of tincture, the scent of crushed herbs sharp and sweet, a fleeting reminder of life amidst ruin. "They grow bolder," Scylla murmured, voice taut with concern. "Fenric's men press harder, and Moric's sorcery deepens. We must hold, or all is lost." Eamon nodded grimly. "The orchard's roots run deep, but even the oldest tree can be felled. We will not falter." The first volley of flaming arrows streaked across the twilight, igniting dry leaves and kindling wildfires that licked hungrily at the orchard's edges. The crackle and pop of fire mingled with the clash of steel and the war cries of men. Defenders scrambled to quench the flames, their faces streaked with soot and fear. The orchard's magic pulsed faintly beneath their feet, a rhythm as old as the kings whose souls it guarded. Within the orchard's heart, the atmosphere grew darker still. A circle of dark sorcerers, clad in robes woven from shadows, chanted in guttural tongues. Their hands moved in intricate patterns, weaving enchantments that sent ripples through the cursed fruit. Each glowing orb throbbed with an eerie, pulsating light, as if alive with malignant intent. The air hummed, a low vibration that set nerves on edge and chilled the marrow. Eamon felt the weight of their magic pressing against the orchard's defenses. He raised his ancient pruning knife, its blade etched with runes of warding, and whispered an incantation taught to him by old Bran. The blade shimmered briefly, radiating a faint, protective glow. "They seek to corrupt the orchard's heart," Eamon said, voice steady despite the dread coiling within. "We must be their shield." Outside the circle of dark magic, Scylla and Nessa moved among the wounded. Scylla's hands were stained with crushed leaves and herbs, tending to cuts and bruises with swift, sure movements. Nessa's calm presence was a balm, her gentle hands applying salves and murmuring prayers to soothe the pain and stem bleeding. The scent of herbs mingled with the acrid smoke, a fragile perfume of hope in the encroaching darkness. "We cannot hold like this forever," Scylla said quietly to Eamon during a brief respite. "Their numbers grow and their sorcery poisons the land itself." Eamon's gaze darkened. "Then we must find strength in what remains. The orchard's legacy is not only in its trees but in those who guard it." From the battered ramparts, Fenric barked orders to his mercenaries with merciless efficiency. His voice was cold and commanding, a harsh contrast to the cries of the wounded and the crackling fires. Lyra darted through the shadows, her lithe form slipping past enemy lines to deliver urgent messages. Her green eyes flashed with determination and fear, the weight of the orchard's fate resting heavily on her young shoulders. "More arrows incoming," Lyra shouted, returning breathless to Eamon. They prepare a battering ram. Fenric rallies his men for a breach. Eamon's jaw clenched. "Prepare the wards." Scylla, ready the herbal wards and potions. Old Bran, see to the defenses. Lyra, warn the others. The defenders scrambled, their movements a desperate dance against the tightening noose of siege. Old Bran's gravelly voice carried through the chaos, reciting ancient incantations that bolstered the orchard's magic. The earth itself seemed to respond, roots twisting beneath the soil to form barriers and snares. As the battering ram thundered against the orchard's outer fence, Fenric's mercenaries surged forward, their war cries sharp and merciless. Eamon met them with his pruning knife flashing, the blade singing through the smoky air. The cursed fruit overhead glowed faintly, releasing pulses of energy that bolstered the defenders and seared their foes. Despite their fierce resistance, the defenders were pushed back inch by inch. The orchard's trees groaned under the assault, some succumbing to axe and fire. Eamon's heart ached with each falling branch, each lost soul within the cursed fruit endangered. In a rare moment of quiet, Scylla approached Eamon, her face streaked with dirt but resolute. "We cannot fight this alone. More must join us if the orchard is to survive." Eamon met her gaze, the weight of his duty pressing down like a stone. "We will find strength in unity, or perish divided." As night deepened, the siege showed no sign of abating. The orchard, wounded but unyielding, stood as a testament to sacrifice and endurance. Yet beneath the surface, the power that sustained it throbbed with growing urgency, hinting at a reckoning yet to come. The battle for the orchard was far from over, and Eamon knew that the true cost of guardianship was yet to be counted. The wind whispered through scorched branches, carrying with it the echoes of fallen kings and the promise of a dawn forged in fire and resolve. And so, beneath the darkened sky, the orchard braced for the next wave, its guardian ready to meet whatever fate awaited. The orchard was quiet in the fading light, the air thick with the scent of earth and ripening fruit. Yet for Eamon, silence was a double-edged sword. It brought a momentary reprieve from the clamor of impending battle, but it also summoned the ghosts of his past ghosts that clung to his heart like the withered leaves of the oldest trees. He moved slowly beneath the tangled boughs, the cursed fruit glowing faintly in the twilight like embers of forgotten fires. Each tree around him bore the mark of a fallen king, their souls entwined with the roots and branches, trapped in a liminal space between life and death. Eamon's fingers brushed the rough bark of an ancient oak, its limbs heavy with fruit that pulsed softly with a spectral light. The orchard was a sanctuary and a prison, a cradle of power and a tomb of tragedy. He closed his eyes, and the memories came unbidden, the screams of his family as flames consumed their home during an earlier invasion. The helplessness he felt as he watched them slip beyond his reach. That night had forged the solemn duty that now weighed upon him, a burden heavier than any sword or shield. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying the faintest echo of voices long silenced. He knelt, resting his forehead against the gnarled roots, seeking solace in the quiet communion of the orchard. "I have failed you," he murmured, voice breaking. "But I will not fail them again." A soft rustle interrupted his reverie, and Eamon looked up to see Scylla approaching. Her fiery hair caught the dying light, a vivid contrast to the muted greens and browns surrounding them. In her hands, she carried a small pouch of herbs, woven carefully with strands of silver and sage. She said nothing, but her presence was a balm to his loneliness, a reminder that he was not alone in this fight. Scylla knelt beside him, offering the pouch. "For strength," she said quietly, "and for healing." Eamon accepted it with a faint nod, his eyes shadowed but grateful. "Thank you, Scylla. Your courage gives me hope when I have little left." Together, they rose and made their way to the edge of the orchard, where old Bran awaited them. The elder's stooped figure was silhouetted against the flickering light of a small fire, his tangled beard and bright eyes lending him an air of timeless wisdom. As they gathered, Bran began to speak, his voice low and steady, weaving tales of kings long gone and sacrifices made in the name of legacy. "The orchard is more than soil and seed," Bran intoned. "It is the memory of those who came before, bound in fruit and root. Each tree is a sentinel of history, and each harvest a reckoning." Eamon listened intently, the weight of those words settling over him like a mantle. He understood now that his pain was part of a larger tapestry, a thread in the endless cycle of power loss and rebirth. The orchard demanded sacrifice, yes, but it also offered hope. As the moon rose high above them, pale and watchful, Eamon, Scylla, and old Bran stood together atop a ridge overlooking the orchard. The night air was sharp, stirring the leaves in a whispering chorus that seemed to echo their resolve. United by grief and determination, they faced the darkness ahead not as isolated souls, but as guardians bound by a shared purpose. Eamon's heart still bore the scars of his past, but beneath that pain blossomed a fierce flame of hope. The orchard was alive with magic and memory, and so was he. The coming battle would test them all, but with allies at his side and the legacy of kings within reach, Eamon was ready to face whatever dawn awaited. The orchard waited, silent but watchful, as the first stars blinked into existence. Somewhere deep in the shadows, the cursed fruit pulsed with ancient power waiting to be called upon, and Eamon knew the time was near. The burden of legacy was his to bear, but it would not break him. With a final look at the glowing trees, he stepped forward, the knife at his side gleaming faintly in the moonlight. The orchard's fate and his own hung suspended in the night, poised on the edge of a promise and a peril yet to come. And so, beneath the watchful eyes of forgotten kings, the gardener prepared to turn the page of his story, knowing that the next chapter would demand everything he had and more. The orchard lay cloaked in the deepening twilight, its ancient boughs swaying in a whispering wind that spoke of centuries past. Between the gnarled trunks, the cursed fruit hung heavy, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light that pulsed like a heartbeat in the growing darkness. Here, beneath the entwined branches, Eamon stood facing Lord Marek, the air thick with a tension that seemed to draw the very shadows closer. Marek's gaunt figure was stark against the soft luminescence of the orchard. His dark armor, etched with arcane runes that shimmered faintly, caught what little light remained, casting eerie reflections onto the surrounding trees. His cold, calculating eyes bore into Eamon's, but beneath that icy gaze flickered something unexpected, an anguished fire. A raw vulnerability that belied the ruthless warlord known to so many. "You see only a conqueror," Marek began, his voice low and rough like gravel over stone. "But I am a man broken by loss, driven by desperate hope, this orchard. These cursed fruits, they are not merely power to be seized. They are the last vestiges of my family's honor, the final threads holding together a legacy shattered by betrayal." Eamon listened, his brows furrowed beneath silver-streaked hair. For years, he had regarded Marek as little more than a ravenous invader, a shadow of greed and ambition that threatened the sacred grove. Yet now, standing beneath the very branches that held the souls of monarchs long faded into myth, he sensed a deeper story unraveling. "Your family's extinction?" Eamon asked, voice steady but laced with a hint of curiosity. "Tell me what drove you to this madness." Marek's eyes darkened, and he gestured toward the orchard as if it bore witness to his confession. "Once, I was a lord of this realm, benevolent, respected. But treachery within my own bloodline led to my downfall. My lands were seized, my kin slaughtered or scattered. I sought forbidden magic to undo what fate had wrought, to restore what was lost. But the price was steep. The air tightened, the orchard's magic thrumming in quiet resonance around them. Eamon's gaze drifted to the cursed fruit, their faint glow casting spectral shadows on the ground. "And you believe consuming these souls will grant you that power?" Marek nodded slowly. "Not just power, redemption. A chance to turn back the relentless tide of oblivion." From the shadows, Scylla stepped forward, her fiery hair ablaze even in the dim. Her piercing green eyes regarded Marek with a mixture of skepticism and compassion. "Redemption comes at a cost," she said softly. "One that may consume more than just your family's legacy." Marek's expression hardened at her words, but there was a flicker of respect. "I do not deny the cost. But better to risk damnation than surrender to Arasha." Eamon felt the weight of her truth settle upon him. The orchard was more than a battleground for power, it was a crucible of history, pain, and hope. The souls within the cursed fruit were not mere trophies, but prisoners of a cycle that demanded sacrifice and understanding. A sudden rustling of leaves stirred the silence, a chill wind sweeping through the orchard as if nature itself responded to the heavy revelations. The scent of earth and ripe fruit mingled with the faint metallic tang of impending conflict. Eamon felt his heart quicken, the familiar pull of duty entwined with an unexpected empathy. "Your cause," Eamon said finally, voice steady yet softened, "is born of desperation. But this orchard is a sanctuary. Its magic is not a tool for reclaiming lost power, but a testament to the past, a warning to the future." Marek's gaze flickered, and for a moment, the gaunt lord seemed less a villain and more a man trapped by his own tragedy. Slowly he lowered his sword, the dark blade catching the orchard's ghostly light before resting point down in the soil. "Then we stand at a crossroads," Marek murmured. "Between destruction and preservation, vengeance and mercy." Eamon nodded, the burden of guardianship heavy on his shoulders. This revelation did not weaken his resolve, but it deepened his understanding of the enemy before him. The orchard was more than a prize to protect, it was a living history, a fragile hope entwined with sorrow and sacrifice. As dusk gave way to night, the cursed fruits pulsed softly, their light a solemn reminder of the legacy at stake. Eamon and Marek stood locked in silent accord, the future uncertain but the battle far from over. What price would they both pay to claim or save the orchard's magic? And could hope arise from the tangled roots of loss and ambition? The orchard waited, ancient and watchful, as the first stars pierced the velvet sky, heralding the storm to come. The orchard had never been more alive, nor more dangerous. The air hung thick with an electric charge, as if the very essence of the fallen kings, whose souls nestled within the gnarled branches, stirred in unrest. Eamon stood at the heart of the grove beneath the oldest tree, a colossal sentinel, whose trunk bore the scars of centuries, and whose branches stretched like skeletal arms against the bruised sky. The cursed fruits, swollen and darkened with the weight of centuries' grief and power, began to pulse with a crimson light that seeped through their cracked skins, casting an unearthly glow upon the mossy earth. A low murmur whispered through the leaves, a council of voices ancient and sorrowful. Eamon closed his eyes, listening to their lament and their fierce resolve. "They heed our call," he murmured, his voice barely above the rustling of the wind. His hand gripped the ancient pruning knife, its blade dulled by time, but charged anew with the magic that coursed through the soil beneath his feet. "Now, Eamon," old Bran's gravelly voice broke through the silence, steady as the earth itself. The old guardian stood nearby, leaning heavily on his gnarled staff, his eyes bright with the knowledge of ages. "The orchard's power is both a weapon and a ruin. Use it wisely, lest you become what you seek to destroy." Eamon nodded, drawing a deep breath that tasted of damp earth and decayed leaves. He began to chant, the words ancient and melodic, wrapping around the grove like a binding spell. The cursed fruit responded, their glow intensifying, veins of light bursting forth in tendrils that twined through the air like serpents. The ground trembled beneath him, and the wind rose in a howl, whipping branches into a frenzy. From the orchard's edge, the invaders advanced, mercenaries led by Fenric and dark sorcerers flanking Lord Marek himself, his gaunt form clad in armor etched with arcane symbols that shimmered in the twilight. His cold eyes fixed upon Eamon, calculating and unyielding. "Your resistance ends here," Gardener Marek spoke, his voice a razor cutting through the chaos. "The orchard's power will be mine." But Eamon was no longer just a guardian. He was the living conduit of a legacy far greater than any mortal ambition. As the chant reached its crescendo, the cursed fruit began to explode in bursts of spectral fire. Bright embers spiraled upward, illuminating the faces of friend and foe alike as glowing vines shot forth, ensnaring weapons and armor, sapping strength and will. Sela darted through the chaos, her fiery hair a beacon amid the shimmering shadows. She moved with grace and purpose, tending to the wounded and reinforcing Eamon's magic with her own knowledge of herbal lore.
"Hold the line!"
she called, her voice fierce and unwavering. The battlefield transformed, once a place of creeping vines and ancient trees, now a surreal arena bathed in crimson light and crackling energy. The invaders faltered, their formations breaking under the orchard's wrath. Fenric roared in frustration, swinging a heavy mace that was ensnared and crushed by glowing tendrils. Yet power exacts a price. Eamon felt it deep within his bones, the draining of life, the fraying of spirit. His legs weakened, breath coming in ragged gasps as the orchard's magic blood from the trees into him. He stumbled, the pruning knife slipping from his fingers to clatter against the leaf-strewn ground. Old Bran rushed to his side, steadying him with a firm grip. "You must endure, Eamon. The orchard's soul is bound to yours." Through the haze of pain, Eamon saw the orchard's souls whispering in mournful chorus, their voices a fragile thread between despair and hope. He knew then that this sacrifice was but a link in an unending chain legacy, and rebirth intertwined in endless cycle. As the last embers faded and silence reclaimed the grove, the invaders retreated, broken and diminished. The orchard, though scarred, stood resilient, its magic tempered by sacrifice and fierce guardianship. Eamon lay beneath the ancient tree, his body spent but his spirit alight with a newfound understanding. "This is not the end," he whispered, eyes closing to the gentle rustle of leaves. "The orchard lives, and so must I." But beyond the horizon, shadows stirred anew, and the price of this victory would soon reveal itself. The orchard's wrath had been unleashed, and the cost was yet to be fully borne. The night deepened around the orchard, thick with the scent of earth and smoke, as the souls of forgotten kings watched silently, their legacy alive in the trembling silence. The air hung heavy with smoke, and the acrid tang of scorched earth as the battle raged fiercely around the orchard's perimeter. Eamon stood at the heart of the fray, his breath ragged, muscles aching, yet his resolve unyielding. The once serene grove was now a maelstrom of clashing steel, incantations, and desperate cries. Old Bran's voice rose above the chaos, a resonant chant that wove through the clamour like a lifeline. His hands moved with practiced grace, invoking ancient wards that shimmered faintly in the dimming light. Around him, arrows tore through the air, some finding their mark in the ranks of the invaders, others embedding themselves in the gnarled bark of the orchard's sacred trees. Yet, amid his steadfast defense, a shadow loomed. A merciless volley caught old Bran unawares, and he staggered, clutching his side as a cruel spear found him. His eyes, usually bright with wisdom, clouded with pain before he crumpled to the ground, the ward flickering and fading with him. Salah's sharp cry cut through the tumult as she dashed to old Bran's side, her fiery hair aflame against the darkening sky. But barely had she knelt and tended to him before a piercing shout warned of another breach. Lyra, swift and nimble, had led the charge to seal the gap, but an ambush caught her in a deadly crossfire. She fell beneath a twisted oak, crimson staining the earth beneath her. Salah reached her too late to save, her hands trembling as she pressed herbal poultices to wounds that no longer responded. Grief struck Scylla hard, her breath shallow and ragged, yet her eyes burned with defiance. Eamon, witnessing these losses, felt the crushing weight of his guardianship more keenly than ever. His heart clenched at the sight of his mentor and trusted scout fallen, the orchard's future suddenly more precarious. Yet, amid the despair, a fierce determination took root. He gripped his ancient pruning knife tighter, its worn handle familiar and grounding. "We carry their sacrifice forward," he murmured, voice steady but heavy. "The orchard demands it." The defenders rallied, their spirits lifted by Eamon's unwavering resolve. Scylla, though shaken, took up her place beside him, her knowledge of herbal magic now tinged with sorrow and fierce purpose. Nessa moved skillfully through the wounded, her healing hands bringing balm where she could, yet even her calm presence could not mask the toll the battle exacted. Fenric, observing from the shadows, snarled in frustration. The losses inflicted upon Marik's forces were mounting, and the defenders' renewed vigor threatened to turn the tide. He barked commands, urging his men forward, but even his brutal tactics faltered against the orchard's stubborn guardians. As twilight deepened, the orchard bore the scars of conflict. Branches were shattered, leaves torn and trampled, and the ground beneath was churned with the marks of desperate struggle. Yet, The cursed fruit still glowed faintly among the boughs, a spectral reminder of the souls contained within. Whispers drifted on the breeze, voices of fallen monarchs murmuring their solemn blessing and sorrow in equal measure. Eamon stood amidst the aftermath, the faces of the fallen etched into his memory. Old Bran's quiet wisdom, Lyra's swift courage, Sila's undying hope, all now woven into the tapestry of the orchard's legacy. He knew the road ahead would demand even greater sacrifice, but the seed of endurance had been planted deep within their hearts. With the weight of loss pressing upon him, Eamon gazed toward the orchard's heart where the final battle loomed. The cursed fruit pulsed with latent power, a promise and a warning intertwined. For them, he vowed, we will stand. The night deepened around the grove, stars flickering above like distant sentinels. The orchard breathed in quiet sorrow and fierce resolve, a living testament to the price of guardianship and the enduring spirit of those who protect the forgotten kings. Yet even as the defenders gathered strength, an uneasy silence fell, as if the orchard itself held its breath, waiting for the storm to come. And so, amid shadows and sacrifice, the story of the orchard's fate continued, its legacy a fragile flame flickering against the encroaching darkness. The storm clouds churned overhead like turbulent thoughts in Eamon's mind as he stood at the orchard's heart, the very nexus of magic and memory. Around him, the trees bent and twisted, their gnarled branches heavy with cursed fruit that pulsed with a spectral glow, casting wavering shadows upon the damp earth. The air was thick with the scent of rain, crushed leaves, and something deeper, an ancient sorrow tangled with the raw power of the souls imprisoned within the orchard's boughs. Across the clearing, Lord Marek emerged from the gathering darkness, his gaunt figure shrouded in armor etched with arcane symbols that shimmered faintly even in the dim light. His eyes, cold and calculating, locked onto Eamon's with unyielding hunger. The merciless ambition that had driven him through years of betrayal and loss now burned brighter than ever, a desperate flame that sought to consume the orchard's power and bend it to his will. Eamon Marek's voice was low and harsh, carrying the weight of a man who had once been noble but was now twisted by grief and dark magic. Your guardianship ends here. The souls of kings will no longer languish in hidden fruit. They will serve a true ruler, one who commands not just loyalty, but dominion. Eamon tightened his grip on the ancient pruning knife at his side, its blade faintly glowing with ethereal light, a gift from the orchard itself, forged in the sacrifices of generations past. The orchard is no tool for tyranny, Marek. It is a sanctuary for those who gave all for their realms. I will not let you desecrate their legacy. A fierce wind swept through the clearing, rustling leaves and stirring the cursed fruit until they seemed to pulse like hearts beating in unison. The orchard responded, a living, breathing entity entwined with the souls it protected. Whispered voices rose from the branches, voices of fallen monarchs lamenting their fate yet lending strength to their guardian. Marek raised a gauntleted hand, dark energy crackling at his fingertips. Shadows coalesced into tendrils that lashed toward Eamon, but the gardener was ready. With a swift motion, he slashed through the air, the pruning knife singing as it cleaved one shadowy strike after another. Each cut released bursts of silvery light, fragments of the orchard's magic that burned away the darkness. The battle escalated swiftly. The cursed fruit bloomed violently, cracking open to release shimmering sap that dripped like blood upon the earth. The orchard's branches writhed, ensnaring both combatants in a tangled embrace, their whispers growing louder echoes of legacy, sacrifice, and the tragic histories bound within the grove. Eamon felt the orchard's power surge through his veins, a double-edged gift that bolstered his strength but threatened to consume his very soul. Memories of those he failed haunted the edges of his mind, his family lost in a previous invasion, their voices a mournful chorus urging him forward. Marek's eyes gleamed with a mixture of fury and desperation as he conjured a torrent of dark magic, aiming to overwhelm Eamon. But the gardener's resolve was unyielding. Channeling the orchard's magic, he transformed the cursed fruit into weapons, glowing orbs that erupted with blinding light upon impact, scattering Marek's forces and disrupting his sorcery. Just as the tide seemed to turn, cries rang out from the orchard's edge. Scylla and old Bran appeared, their presence a beacon in the chaos. Scylla's fiery hair gleamed even in the dim light as she wielded her knowledge of herbal magic, casting protective wards and healing spells. Old Bran's voice, rasping and filled with ancient wisdom, called upon forgotten enchantments that bound the orchard's roots and branches tighter, restraining Marek's movements. Together, they formed a fragile bulwark around Aemon, buying him precious moments to gather strength. Yet the cost was evident. Scylla's face was pale, her breath ragged, and old Bran's stooped form trembled with exhaustion. The orchard itself seemed to pulse with pain, its magic taxed by the desperate struggle. Aemon found himself locked in a final, desperate struggle with Marek beneath the oldest tree, its trunk wide and scarred, bearing the deepest curses and memories. Their blades clashed, light against shadow, legacy against ambition. Each strike was a story, each parry a testament to years of sacrifice. In a moment of clarity, Aemon summoned the full power of the orchard, the cursed fruit glowing with an intense, almost blinding light. He plunged his pruning knife into the heartwood of the ancient tree, releasing a wave of magic that surged outward, binding Marek in spectral chains forged from the souls of the fallen kings. Marek's scream echoed through the orchard, a sound both human and unearthly, fading into silence as the magic sealed his fate. The orchard settled, the branches ceasing their restless twisting, the cursed fruit dimming to a soft, steady glow. Aemon collapsed to his knees, exhaustion and relief washing over him in equal measure. Around him, Scylla and old Bran tended to their wounds, their eyes reflecting both sorrow for what was lost and hope for what might yet be. "The orchard is safe," Aemon whispered, though he knew the cost had been immense. The legacy of the forgotten kings was preserved, but at a price that would echo through the seasons to come. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting golden light through the branches, Aemon looked to the future, aware that guardianship was an unending cycle of sacrifice and renewal. The orchard remained, a living testament to the enduring power of legacy, the price of protection, and the hope born from the darkest of trials. But even in victory, the question lingered: how long could such a fragile piece endure, and what new shadows might one day seek the orchard's cursed fruit? The battle was won, but the story of the orchard and its forgotten kings was far from over. The first light of dawn filtered softly through the tattered canopy of the orchard, casting long shadows over the scarred earth. Aemon stood quietly amidst the ruins, the weight of the night's battle still pressing heavily upon his shoulders. The once vibrant branches, heavy with cursed fruit and the souls of forgotten kings, now lay broken and smoldering. The air carried the acrid scent of smoke, mingled with the faint sweetness of crushed fruit that had spilled onto the soil. Silence hung thick, broken only by the distant calls of birds returning to the wounded groves. Aemon's gaze swept slowly over the devastation. Where once proud trees had stood like silent sentinels, gnarled trunks now lay shattered, their noble burdens released or lost. The orchard was safe, no invader dared remain, but the cost was unmistakable. Each fallen tree was a monarch lost anew, their legacy now entwined with the blood and sacrifice of the defenders. He knelt beside one such tree, its bark scorched and peeling, the cursed fruit blackened and cracked. His fingers closed around the ancient pruning knife he always carried, its blade dulled but steadfast. "Rest now," he murmured softly, voice rough with exhaustion and grief. "Your burden is done." From nearby, the rustle of movement drew his attention. Scylla emerged from the shadows, her fiery hair a vivid contrast against the grey dawn. She cradled a small sapling, its leaves fragile but shimmering faintly with a green glow. Kneeling beside the wounded plant, she whispered an incantation in a language old as the orchard itself. The sapling pulsed gently, a fragile heartbeat amid ruin. "This one may yet stand," Silas said softly, eyes meeting Eamon's with a spark of cautious hope. "We will tend to what remains, and they will grow again." Eamon nodded, the slightest flicker of a smile brushing his lips. The orchard was wounded, but not broken. Not yet. Nearby, old Bran gathered a small circle of survivors around a flickering campfire. His stooped form cast long shadows as he spoke in his gravelly voice, recounting tales of guardians past the sacrifices, the betrayals, and the price paid to keep the orchard safe through centuries. His stories wove a tapestry of history and warning, binding the weary souls around him with a shared purpose. "Our duty is not ended," he said, voice thick with age and resolve. "The orchard demands vigilance. It breeds sacrifice, but from sacrifice comes renewal." At the edge of the firelight, Nessa moved quietly, her hands steady as she arranged herbs and poultices on the ground. Her gentle touch soothed the wounded and weary alike. The defenders, battered but unbroken, gathered around her, their exhaustion etched deep into their faces. Yet in her presence, a balm of compassion seemed to mend unseen fractures. Eamon watched them, all the allies who had stood firm through the siege, the fragile beginnings of new growth, and the silent echoes of those lost. The orchard was changed irrevocably. The cursed fruit still bore its tragic legacy, but now it also carried the hope born from their sacrifice. He rose slowly, the weight of his role settling anew. Guardianship was not a mantle lightly worn. It demanded constant vigilance, endless sacrifice, and the willingness to face despair without faltering. Yet as the sun climbed higher, spilling golden light over the battered land, Eamon felt the stirrings of something more: renewal, connection, and a future forged from the ashes. "We have won this battle," he said quietly to Scylla as they began to survey the orchard's edges, "but the orchard's story is far from over. We must heal what has been broken, tend to the roots of power and pain alike, and prepare for the days to come." Scylla nodded, determination shining in her green eyes. "Together," she replied, "we will see it through." As the survivors set to work, Eamon allowed himself a moment to speak once more to the trees, to the souls nestled within their cursed fruit. "Rest now, forgotten kings," he whispered. "Your legacy lives. We will guard it, no matter the cost." Beyond the orchard's bounds, the forest whispered in the morning breeze a quiet promise that, though scarred, the orchard endured. The cycle of legacy and rebirth would continue, bound by the steadfast hearts of those who refused to let the past fade into silence. But in the depths of his heart, Eamon knew the road ahead would be long and fraught. The orchard's magic was ancient and wild. Its protection was an eternal vigil. Yet as the first new buds began to stir among the branches, a fragile hope took root. The orchard was alive, and so was its guardian. The orchard breathed deeply beneath Eamon's feet, a living tapestry woven from history, magic, and sacrifice. The bitter scent of the cursed fruits still lingered in the air, yet amidst this heavy remembrance, there blossomed a new fragrance, one of hope, renewal, and the enduring promise of rebirth. Eamon stood tall beneath the ancient boughs, the silver strands of his weathered hair catching the dappling sunlight filtering through the leaves. He watched as petals unfurled slowly on the soul-bearing trees, their fragile forms trembling with the first breath of spring. Each bloom was a testament to the orchard's resilience, to the kings and queens who had once ruled realms now forgotten, yet whose legacies clung tightly to the roots and branches. He felt the weight of his duty settle differently now, less a crushing burden, and more a sacred trust shared among those who had stood alongside him through the darkest hours. Scylla moved beside him, her fiery hair a vivid flame against the muted greens and browns. Together, they knelt by a slender sapling, fingers deftly weaving protective charms from herbs gathered in the orchard's shadow. "This one will grow strong," Scylla whispered, her voice soft but certain. "The orchard's magic flows through us all now, Eamon, not just through you." Eamon nodded, the old walls around his heart shifting imperceptibly. It is time the orchard was no longer a prison for souls, but a sanctuary for those who protect them. Old Bran's gravelly voice broke through the quiet. seated on a moss-covered stone nearby. The retired guardian's eyes gleamed with the light of countless stories. "The cycle is eternal," he said. "Kings fall, powers fade, but the orchard endures. It is the memory of sacrifice, the echo of legacy. You have learned well, Eamon, that to guard is not merely to hold fast, but to let go when the time comes." Eamon's gaze lifted to the horizon where the sun set in a blaze of amber and rose, casting long shadows that danced like ancient spirits among the trees. The orchard whispered to him not in the haunting tones of the past, but in a melody of life sustained and futures yet unwritten. Lyra flitted between the rows of trees, her nimble hands tending to the saplings with patient care. Nessa followed, her gentle touch coaxing vitality back into wounded branches and broken limbs. Their quiet diligence was a balm to the orchard's battered heart, a symbol of the new guardianship blossoming from the ashes of conflict. Eamon watched them, a swell of pride and hope filling his chest. The orchard was no longer his alone to bear. It belonged to all who loved it, to all willing to sacrifice for its preservation. The cursed fruit, once a symbol of tragic legacy, now held the promise of renewal, its power tempered by the wisdom of those who understood its true price. As stars began to prick the twilight sky, Eamon spoke aloud, his voice steady and resolute. "We are the orchard's legacy, its rebirth. And together we will guard it not as solitary sentinels, but as a family forged in the fires of sacrifice and hope." The trees rustled in gentle agreement, their ancient souls stirring with newfound life. The orchard's future was uncertain, as all futures are, but in that moment, beneath the canopy of forgotten kings, a new dawn was breaking, and with it a new chapter began. The dawn broke slowly over the orchard of forgotten kings, the first light of morning filtering through the dense canopy of ancient branches. Each leaf shimmered with dew, and the air was alive with the subtle hum of magic and eternal pulse that resonated with the souls cradled within the orchard's cursed fruit. Eamon stood beneath these towering sentinels, their gnarled trunks twisted by centuries, and breathed deeply the mingled scents of earth, wild herbs, and the bittersweet aroma of ripening fruit. His gaunt face, weathered by years of solitude and battle, softened in the gentle light. For the first time in many moons, a flicker of hope kindled in his chest. Beside him, Scylla knelt to tend a newly planted sapling, her nimble fingers brushing away stray leaves as she whispered a blessing learned through generations of herbal lore. Her fiery hair caught the sun's rays, a stark contrast to the dark greens and browns of the orchard. Old Bran, stooped but steady, leaned on his gnarled staff, his eyes agleam with the wisdom of ages. "The orchard breathes anew," he murmured, voice gravelly yet filled with warmth. "The kings rest, and their souls find peace in the turning of the seasons." Eamon nodded solemnly, the weight of that peace not lost on him. The battles had been fierce, and the cost had been dear. Friends lost, wounds still etching beneath his cloak, and the ever-present burden of guardianship that pressed upon his soul like the heavy branches overhead. But now, as the orchard stirred with new life, he felt the tides of despair recede, replaced by a cautious but resolute hope. "We have work still," Eamon said quietly, voice steady but soft. "The orchard is wounded by war, and the scars of conflict run deep. We must heal these lands if the legacy is to endure." Scylla smiled, a rare softness in her usually determined gaze. "Together." Farther along the orchard's edge, Lyra darted among the shadows, her steps light and sure. The forest around her seemed to lean closer, whispering secrets in a language only the trees and those who listened could understand. Her green eyes sparkled as the voices of monarchs long past echoed faintly on the wind, mingling with the rustle of leaves and the distant song of birds. She paused, hand resting on the bark of an ancient oak, feeling the pulse of magic that bound the orchard to the world itself. It was a bond forged through sacrifice and guarded by those who understood that power and legacy intertwined like roots beneath the soil. As the morning sun climbed higher, Nessa moved with measured grace through a shaded glade. Her hands glowing faintly with the healing light she summoned from the depths of nature's wellspring. A young sapling, its leaves bruised and branches broken from the recent siege, stood before her. Gently, she laid her hands upon it, murmuring words of restoration and life. The wounds began to fade, the leaves brightening to a vibrant green, and the sapling straightened as though breathing anew. Around her, the soft hum of the orchard's magic swelled, a quiet symphony of resilience and renewal. Eamon approached, a rare smile breaking the solemn lines of his face. "Your hands mend more than just trees, Nessa." She glanced up, eyes meeting his with quiet understanding. "We all heal in time, Eamon, even the deepest wounds." As the day waned, the orchard grew silent beneath the settling dusk. At its heart, Eamon stood alone, cradling a single cursed fruit in his palm. Unlike the fruits that had once been harbingers of sorrow and power twisted by greed, this one glowed softly with a serene light. It pulsed gently, a symbol not of curse, but of the eternal cycle of legacy and rebirth. Around him, the trees whispered in voices both ancient and new, a chorus of kings whose stories would endure beyond the confines of time. He breathed deeply, the cool evening air filling his lungs, and allowed himself a moment of peace. The orchard was no longer merely a place of shadows and forgotten pain. It was a living testament to endurance and sacrifice. The battles had carved their mark upon it, but so too had the hands of those who dared to protect and renew. "We will stand guard," Eamon vowed softly to the silent grove, not as solitary sentinels, but as a circle bound by trust and purpose. From the shadows, Scylla, Old Bran, Lyra, and Nessa emerged quietly, joining him in the fading light. Together, they formed a new covenant, guardians not just of fruit and soil, but of memory, hope, and the promise of a future where the past's burdens might transform into strength. The orchard pulsed once more beneath their feet, alive with the magic of kings and guardians alike. And as night fell, the stars above twinkled through the branches like distant crowns, silent witnesses to a new dawn. Yet even in this moment of renewal, Eamon's thoughts lingered on the future. The world beyond the orchard's borders was ever restless, and threats would surely come again. But with allies at his side, and the orchard's magic woven into their very souls, he felt ready to meet whatever challenges awaited. For the Orchard of Forgotten Kings was not merely a place of endings, it was a beginning. A cycle unbroken, a story unfinished, and a sanctuary where legacy could breathe and blossom anew. And so, with the dawn rising bright and full of promise, Eamon took up his ancient pruning knife once more, stepping forward into the light of a new day.